Hey everybody. So I wanted to start recording stuff that is a little bit more ranty than I normally would go on. So I decided that I was going to start uploading to this channel more often, with just stuff I wanted to just like rant and talk about. And, you know, I wanted this to be one of the first topics to kind of talk about because I think it kind of sets the tone for my kind of vibe almost. So like, and I promise like, it's going to be a lot more interesting than you think. I've been talking to people about this idea for a while now. It's a lot more complex than I was originally anticipating. But this video is talking about the artistic merit of AI generated art. And I think overall, I've come to kind of an interesting conclusion in all of this. And in a way, I kind of stumbled upon what I wanted to talk about, which some people might understand what it is, judging by the name, you know? And let's kind of get into it. But before I do that, let's do the thing I usually do, but now because this is an actual like video that I'm recording, I have to actually like explain to people. So today's tarot card draw is the Hermit. I'm currently using the art assets from Persona 3 because it's one of the only tarot card decks that doesn't have nudity in it. Isn't that funny? Okay, so perfect card about like introspection and all that kind of stuff. Just try not to go overboard and accidentally like seal yourself away from the world, you know? Anyway, let's talk about AI. But before we do that, we have to actually like talk about like where my sort of like idea and premise comes from. So let's first talk about oh man, I'm gonna have to like pull up this first. Okay. Impossible to create AI tools like ChatGPT without copyright infringement materials, OpenAI says. This is an article from like 2 years ago, but I still oftentimes think about it. So, let's see here. Chatbots such as ChatGPT and image generators like Stable Diffusion are trained on a vast trove of data taken from the internet, with much of it covered by copyright, a legal protection against someone's work being used without permission. So last month, as of the writing of this article, the New York Times sued OpenAI and Microsoft, which is a leading investor in OpenAI, not as much anymore if you check the news, and uses the tools in its products, accusing them of unlawful use in its work to create its products. So, as you could kind of imagine, because they are talking about copyright, they are talking about taking an item from one idea and kind of messing with it and then selling it commercially, which would violate its copyright, meaning that they would have to pay the person who used that they are taking that from with legal with some type of monetary value. Like, let's just say that you have like a license for something and you are using that commercially and then bringing that in. But we're not just talking about like, art. We're not talking about like characters. We're talking about photographs, forum posts, and scraps of software code. These are like all like data, which again, imagine if opening this article, I had to pay the Guardian, like, I had to literally pay the Guardian like $5 American each week to be able to talk about their articles. Stuff like that like would run into certain types of problem when you are discussing things. So, clearly they're not talking about that. They're literally talking about using items from something as another thing. And it's always really funny because I've never understood this argument because I am an appreciator of the arts. Uh, you know, it doesn't matter what type of art it is. I have grown some kind of fond appreciation for it. Let's talk about like one of the more interesting ones that I've kind of stumbled across in my time on the internet. This is collage. Collage is the art style of taking things and putting them together. So as you can kind of see from this image from Stock Cake, it is a tree that is a bunch of scraps of paper that are just combined together for that. As we can kind of see from this image of a bee, this looks like pieces from what was it called again? What is the English word for this? It's musical notation on sheet music. There we go. And apparently it's being sold for like $34. Jeez. But like when you take like scraps of paper and you're like combining it together like this, you can kind of see like what you use the word and all that kind of stuff, and you kind of sit there and you go, "That's cool. That's really cool." But I want you to think about this. Imagine if every single piece of paper that came from like a book, or as you saw from this, like clearly like some kind of like piece of music. Imagine if you had to pay every single person who this came from. And a lot of people would rightly say, I don't think that that works. But you're using it for an unintended thing that the original creator used it for. Like, think about this. There is this piece of art that I've actually grown really fond of ever since first seeing it. It is this. A portrait of the Twin Towers in New York City, made with the faces of the victims of the 9/11 attacks of the towers. You know? This is a piece of art that I've basically been seeing for the last like 20 years. And it is quite literally a very beautiful image. You know, it is a photo of the Twin Towers, and it is the headshots of all of the people who died there. Collage art like this is really beautiful and is impactful, and more than likely, they did get permission from every single family member who died. And I could not imagine them doing this art without that, because it is about like something different than just, you know, like taking just like a random newspaper and then like coloring the pages. Like this is a lot more impactful. And so at that point, should you pay people to be used in collage? And when I thought about like these two things combined, I was like, okay, now we kind of have like a discussion here. So one of the first things I thought about is this. Name one thing in this picture. This is one of the older pieces of art that was generated through some kind of like data moshing system. Like, you can kind of tell that this is like a human face. This might be like their jacket. This might be like another person over here that's like way too distorted. But the computer is trying to take images from things that it knows and combine it together into different things. It's kind of like woodworking, you know? Okay, so if you've never known how like wood planks are made, so you have chunks of tree, and you find pieces of wood that are kind of similar next to each other, and you kind of melt them together so that when you flatten them into a board, all of the lines are seamless going through. Wood paneling. Oh man, I'm typing so weird today. So when you are when you're talking about, you know, like the way that wood looks, like we're talking about like man. so hard to actually like find a yeah, I think the best way to do this is just looking up like hardwood flooring. Okay, so as you can kind of see from like this, these are the rings of a tree that are then put next to each other. This is not another part of the tree. Like, this probably square right here comes from a tree. This comes from another tree. This comes from another tree. And the reason why you sometimes get these like peaks and like jagged lines right here is because the pieces of the tree that are right next to each other almost kind of look like it, and almost fit it, but it doesn't quite, you know? And so you kind of have these like weird texturings all over the place. But again, what you're looking at is pieces of trees that are kind of glued together to kind of make this sort of like design. And that's what they kind of do with AI-generated art. It is taking ideas and concepts and gluing them together until it creates a cohesive whole. Does it kind of come out janky? Yes, if you look at it close enough. And it's really fascinating to kind of think about it this way, because I've always seen like AI-generated stuff kind of like this. Like, I was one of the people that were on the like the bleeding edge of looking at these kind of things, and I never really got the impression that it was, you know, stealing. I always thought that it was more of that they're taking the data and they are just moving it, and then kind of like replicating it. So when we talk about certain things, like going back to the article, the reason why, you know, like artists and writers are trying to sue them is because if you can just generate a piece of art without consulting the artist or the writer, then you start having a problem. And that is why it's always fair use and legal copyright, which is the problem. And, you know, that is understandable. Like, we're talking about like these nebulous ideas about gluing that are effectively gluing things together. But like at the same time, you start asking what people who do like AI are doing with AI, and they are just saying, well, I want to make a movie. Yeah, I want to make a movie in which I have Steve Rogers, aka Captain America from the Marvel movies, and I want him to go on a Pokémon adventure. And I go, that's really cool. I kind of like that. Are you going to draw it? And they're like, I kind of want to AI generate a movie so I can watch that happen. Or I want to play as that character in a game, but I'm never going to have that. So I'm going to, you know, like generate that sort of experience. And the thing is that like that type of thing has been in the realm of like, of fan fiction stuff for literally over 20 years. Like, this is a piece of art that was published on this website in almost 13 years ago, you know? And this is like a really cool image. I like this. This is cute. It was drawn by someone. You know, like this one's Romanov, this one's Loki, this one's Nick Fury. It's like this is really cool. I like this sort of thing. But like, you asked like, okay, so you wanted to do this, and instead of going through an artist, you're gonna go through a generator. Yes. And so it's so complicated, because I understand what they want. They want the automatic gaining of this art without having to do the work of actually doing the art, I thought. And we're gonna get into something, but we have to first talk about the incredibly forefronting like laziness that is AI, Because when you start getting these people that are like, I want this, I want this, I want this, you start getting to the people that want things instantly. You want people that want things really fast. You don't want someone. What is this actually the way to describe it? It's why would I go to a high-class udon place when I could just get a thing of cup noodles right now? And I understand it's like they cut the meat. They've braised the meat into this, and it's like all the flavors mixed well together. It's made by someone who's been doing this for years. Or I literally just threw this cup of noodles into the microwave for 3 minutes. You know, it's all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about the AI slop. Well, this is a video by Penguin Zero, aka Charlie, talking about Fruit Love Island. So if you've never heard of Fruit Love Island, this video is from like a month ago. Like 3 million views. Jeez. Remember to like and support any video that I show. Even if you don't like it, leave a like and tell the person in the comments that you didn't like what you said, what you saw. Always do that. Let's just listen to Charlie here.
This story in particular is one that's been popping off. An AI-powered TikTok account behind Fruit Love Island series is already the fastest growing ever, gaining 3 million followers in 9 days since launching on March 13th. It has videos hitting tens of millions of views within hours and a rapidly growing fandom. I don't know if it's true or not that it's the fastest growing TikTok account ever. That could just be some phony baloney garbage that's solely there to get some eyes on it and maybe even push some more people to find this channel over there on TikTok. But it is true that in only 9 days, it has reached over 3 million followers, and almost all their videos have in excess of 10 million views. It is huge. Now, I believe a lot of it is botted. I think that's probably the main strategy these AI slop factories use, is they make some shorts and then bot the views to try and get people to organically filter in and then stick around. And you can see for AI.cinema021, this has been a home run strategy for them. Even that name makes it very clear that this is just one of their endless attempts to have an AI account pop off. It is just a throwaway name, AI.cinema021. It is probably like their 21st account doing this exact same fucking thing. This just happened to be the one that caught fire. But yeah, it has worked wonders for them. It's been a slam dunk. They have a whole community that's starting to prosper and bloom. They talk about Fruit Love Island like people used to talk about Skibbity Toilet.
Why did you hide your phone?
It's nothing!
Wait, who is Peachy Baby?
Give that back!
You told her you were single?
Vomit-inducing trash. And they're also using, like, really early AI for this, I think. They're probably using the fucking prototype that Will Smith was eating spaghetti on a few years back. They're on fucking Grok negative 1.0. Like, the lip syncing doesn't match at all. And everything about it is just super fucking cattywampus. So, like, the way that they're holding the phone there, the hand is completely wrong and backwards. But I imagine people like that as part of the charm, it being so wonky and shitty.
Kind of. Okay, so when I first saw people talking about this, they were honestly engaged. I'm like, are you serious? Like, I could look at something like that and my brain falls out. You know, like the incredibly famous. What was it called? 1 second. Found it. Okay, so this is one of the many, and I mean many, videos on TikTok that have over millions of views and tens of hundreds of thousands of comments. Okay, now very clearly, like AI generated video of like baby falling out of plane, rescued by cat. They're now on a deserted island surviving with each other. This was an entire breed of videos last year, and I got so tired of it because it's all so stupid. I had to go specifically look for the one I was trying to find, and I couldn't. You know, I could not find the one I was thinking of because there was a very... so bad. Like, and those earlier AI-generated videos from a year ago, like, you can look at those. They all have like a certain design aesthetic to them. They have like a vibe to them, and you can tell from a distance that it is like AI generated stuff, and it's all terrible.
And that's not to say that if it was a more sophisticated AI video, that'd make it better. It'd still be an entire pile of dog shit for sure.
I can explain.
He told me he was single too. Wait, what? You know what? He can keep his stupid phone. Let's just leave him. Honestly, he was the worst. Yeah, but at least something good came out of it.
This is what gets shown in hell. This whole account is like the Emoji Movie if it was made by a glue-huffing PCP addict. It's just so bad. This was the first video on the channel, then it went into its iconic Fruit Love Island series, Season 1.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not going to show the entire video because, you know, it's more than just this I want to talk about. But, you know, Charlie, he's got like millions of subscribers and like millions of views. Anyway, really cool dude. Anyway, that's stuff from like last year. This is a video also from last year. This is from Asmongold's clips. You can discuss whether or not like he's a good person or whatnot. I usually just use his clips to kind of talk about something overall, not really about him himself. So just like.
So take a look at this right here. This is by Google's new AI. This is AI generated. Gentlemen, get ready.
We can talk.
No more silence.
Yes, we can talk.
We can talk.
We can talk.
We can talk with accents.
Oh, I think that would be marvelous fun.
Yes, it is very fun. But
Yes, it is very good.
It's very fun.
I can talk.
Yes.
We can talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is stuff from like last year, okay? So when we talk about stuff that's coming out now,
AI is getting better, and I love it. What is this, Dark Souls?
Do we have any more mana potions?
No.
I've seen this. Just
it oddly has the audio and it has the like video right from like a movie around the time, but it still has that like weird glossiness to it that I think is mostly like people just trying to like make stuff. And you know, it's like it's so interesting because like people also like have been just jumping at AI entirely. So this was recommended to me by someone in a Discord I'm in to kind of look at this. The AI-Monet experiment and what it tells us about art critics. So this is an article on Medium talking about an article on Petapixel. Someone shared a real Monet painting as AI and asked for critiques, basically saying that it's garbage looking. But again, this is a real Monet painting, and people are talking about it. Okay. I would say that the allegedly real one here is superior in the sense that it carries and conveys more information than the artificial one. Yeah, again, even though the Monet painting that they showed that they said was AI is literally an actual Monet painting. The AI version is granulated pixelization and it looks way and it has lacks the mess of humanity. You know, it's like okay, back in the mid-2000s, someone took Cartier-Besson's 1932 photograph of Hégers, France, the iconic overhead view of a man on a bicycle curving around the corner beneath the spiral staircases, and submitted it to Flickr critique group as if it was just another member upload. In that context, commenters thinking that they were critiquing an anonymous contemporary photographer left plenty of negative and nitpicky feedback about composition and technical choices. Now, I have never actually seen this picture before, so I had to go out and find it. And the photo is this one. it is, you know, Henry Cartier-Bresson, is this image. It's interesting, but again, this is an image from 1932, almost a 100-year-old photo. And the reason why this is interesting is because at around the turn of the century, they were still using like black powder to like set the image to this thing that like they then had to have it soak for like a long period of time. This was an instant photograph, you know? This is like when we started making like shutter speed and like capture ability like really quick, which is why like you see this guy biking and then it's blurred because he's moving as the shutter is closing. So things that are static are solid, and then he's in motion, so it's blurred. You know, it's like very fascinating. And so it's like when we're talking about these sort of things, you have to keep in mind like the way things look and the way things are. You know? I think of that flicker moment often when I see online critics, but it got me thinking, as things invariably do. I think this moment exposed something a bit deeper than the faux art snobs trying to outdo each other, and maybe we should think about it. A whole lot of us are no longer engaged with art as art. We engage with it as content. We want it fast, disposable, contextless, and optimized for a reaction. Maybe it isn't AI art or even AI that's the problem here. There was a pact at one point. Artists could make work and the audience would bring attention, curiosity, and patience, and some willingness to wrestle with it. Now, all the audience wants is easy pattern recognition for a monetary hot take. And I think that is where a lot of criticism also comes from. You know, it's like people want to attack something because they want to attack it. And it's mostly because they're trying, I don't want to use the word reactionary. I'm trying to think of anything else. Because, personally. But yeah, when it's fast, easy, and free, sometimes it is not the quality that you want. Because if you try to maximize on any one of those, qualities will dip. And so when people are trying to make AI art, it ends up looking the way that, you know, Fruit Salad Island is. Actually, no. I think Fruit Salad Island was a show that aired on Fox Kids. Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island. Yes, there we go. Okay, so let's move into something really fascinating, though. Let's talk about the counter argument. Let's talk about instead of, you know, I could talk about like AI generated writing like all day. As a writer, I have encountered way too much of it, and it has started to actually kind of bug me. But like, it does get to a place where I kind of understand it. But at the same time, I just detest the way that AI writes things. It's still not good. Let's talk about music, because again, we've talked about like physical art, and again, like I think writing-wise is a little bit out of the scope of this because it would take too long to explain. Let's talk about music. So, I want to show off a channel called Skybrows. So if you've never heard of Skybrows before, he is actually like a computer graphic artist. And when AI started going off, he started making videos about it. Like way back down here, you could see that like he started making things like a year ago using like some of like the like older types of like, you know, Gen 3 AI and like all this kind of stuff. I accidentally stumbled upon him like really early on with a video called Home Stallone, which you can kind of see the idea of it is just what if, you know, we take Home Alone and just have, you know, John Rambo as the main character. And, you know, it's a funny concept. I found this like way, way long ago, and it kind of just set in the back of my head. You know, it's like right next to a lot of other things. But like as you can kind of see, like he had always like been really interested in the way that AI looks and the way that AI generates. And then at one point, something kind of snapped in his head, and he wanted to take it one step further. So he started making music. So all of this is made with like several sort of like systems in place and a bunch of other stuff. I think he used to like actually like write down like what he uses. Visually, I believe he uses I believe he uses like 2 different generators for the image, and then he animates it in Grok, and then he takes the music made in Suno, and he puts it into like an actual like program in which he then edits it, and then he then edits the video so that it can, you know, like bounce and pulse with the music. And it's neat. It's a very neat aesthetic, and a lot of his videos come off as this like hyper real tech future sort of stuff. Like the video that he got really famous for is look at that, like 1.6 million views, is a video called Elon's Musk. One of probably the worst titles he could have come up with, but hey, it's really cool. And as you can see, like it's got this like very interesting like neon future aesthetic for like a lot of the stuff. And it's all based on like stuff. And again, 6 months ago. Like we're like slowly getting to the day. The video that I showed a little bit ago is the thing that came out literally today as of recording it. And like a lot of the like a lot of like his style is still there. And you could say like, well, what is his style? And it's just the way he writes the prompt. And you could say a lot of things, you know? And you could say like a lot of things about how exactly someone prompts something and where all the prompts are coming from. But I kind of want to talk about something really fascinating, because when thinking about all of this, I came to a conclusion. AI art is Internet Graffito. So, which is, you know, the whole idea of this. And I came to this sort of conclusion when I was doing a little bit of cursory research into street art. So if you've never like looked at the way that street art is, you know, very simple. It is it's originally started off as like the way of like intercity like tagging, where like different gang groups would basically like throw up like a name really quickly because they're like, hey, this is our space. But then people started showing up on other people by going, look at how cool I can make that tag. Look at what else I could do with it. And then you also think about, wait a second, like, oh, wait a second, how long would that actually take? Because you have to think about like intercity, the police are going around, like people that actually own the buildings might see, and then you have to get out of there really quickly. How long did it take for you to like do a piece of art like this? Now, like clearly this is in like 2013 after like all the stuff, but like the cultural impact on like graffito has actually been like really fascinating. You know, like people saw the potential to express their creativity in public with almost limitless canvas sizes. This caused graffiti to explode into something much more, assuming that you were still willing to risk the inherent consequences of being caught damaging public property. Daring individuals began speaking truth to power under the cover of night, sometimes with witty comments and questions, and other times with eye-catching drawings. Whichever path was taken, their efforts resonated with many who saw them during the day, causing members of the public to realize that they weren't alone in their thoughts and nudging others to ask the same questions to those painted in front of them. And I suddenly realized why AI started taking off in more uh, counterculture circles, like the more libertarian right and the more and all that type of stuff, because it mimics something that happened already in history. This happened in communist Russia. Okay, so I got really excited when I started realizing like a lot of this stuff, like of how they like all overlap, you know? So during the Soviet Union, when Leninist Marxists started like all like started coming up, the way that they expressed their fervor against the monarchy and other sort of like czar systems was the proletariat literally went to the places where the bourgeoisie were and started putting up art fighting against them. Like where is it? Okay, there it is. Wright is embodying Althra's claim that ideology represents the imaginary relationship of individuals to the real conditions of existence, which is a thesis that underlines literature's contextual significance because, as a work of fiction, it is a high form of imagined representation of Marxist relationships between people and conditions. Overall, artists have had a significant role in communist society by constructing their work to imply why it is needed, mostly done through the representation of capitalist values as English is hard, uh, idiosyncrasies, syncrasities. Ah, you could kind of tell that English is not my first language some of the times. For example, presenting private ownership as something that keeps groups of people in unpleasant environments, likewise to rights portrayal. This, as a turn, colors communist factors as more alluring and appropriate for the proletariats because it strives to eliminate the cause of the social program. It's like when I think about stuff like this, it all starts to fascinate me because, you start having like, it's like, why is AI taking off? And it's literally because it's protest art. It's fighting back against the hyper, like, capitalist system that is art critique and people buying into art as a whole. It's like, uh, I'm gonna get to it in a second, but I kind of want to get into it now. Okay, so this is one of the most well-known like moments in like in street art. Okay, Banksy shreds his own art. So if you don't know who Banksy is, he is one of the most well-known like street artists in the world. He drew this piece of art called The Girl with the Balloon in about like 2004. And and this was such a beautiful piece of art that they literally ripped it off of the wall it was on to put it into a frame. Okay, so now let's kind of talk about what happened. So shortly after, what was it? Where was it? Okay. Banksy executed one of the most meteoric stunts in art history, employing a built-in shredder concealed within the frame. His picture was shredded moments after its sale. An audacious assault on the art world and market long scored by Banksy, failing to destroy the entire work, which Banksy alleged was the original plan. The new artwork was called Love is in the Bin. So this is like a little gif of like how this sort of happened, where it's like it literally just starts shredding the art. And because the piece of art got stuck halfway through, this is now a piece of art called Love is in the Bin, which like which exponentially increased its art value because now it's saying something. Because like the original piece of art, the original piece of art was about like a girl who has like her her like freedom and everything about her, and as it floats away seamlessly as a balloon, you know? And like, here's another piece of art from Banksy. Is like, I can't believe you morons actually buy this stuff, and it just says everything you need to know about Banksy as a person, is that he does not value art on a monetary level. You know, he is kind of a communist. You know, he's using it as a form of protest. He is using it as a form of fighting back against the system. And, you know, it's like a few years later he would tag it in like a few other places with like different images. But you start asking, like, how did he actually do this? Well, he has a stencil. So the way that stencil street art works is you literally just set up a piece of art somewhere really quickly, you spray it down, and once everything is in place, you start putting on layers. You then remove the over stencil, and then you put the more detailed stencil, so that a layer 1 is firm on place, and then the pieces for the next art go up. And you know, like back in like 2004, like Banksy had like more, you know, rudimentary stencils and all that type of stuff. This is a lot more dedicated and has a lot more work to it, and you can now machine generate all of this. Banksy was basically doing this in like a warehouse, just randomly in London. You know, it's like all of this is like super fascinating, but the thing is when we start talking about AI generated art, it's that stencil. It's the stencil that is the original work, using it, taking a bunch of pieces together, fitting it in a weird way, and then just spray painting over it so that the new piece, when it comes off, does not look like those original stencils. And when I started like thinking about this and how this all goes, I started becoming a lot more fascinated with like AI art as a tool to express yourself and as a form of protest. Let's talk about one of those forms of protest now, shall we? Because there's like one other thing that I want to talk about later, but it's going to come in after this. So when we talk about the way that art is seen as protest, how about I show you Psyop Anime. So Psyop Anime is a channel that I found, and it's so fascinating. So they AI generate news, and you might be thinking like, oh, so like fake news and all that type of stuff. It's like, well, it definitely is like, you know, very right wing sort of perspective on type of things. Like he has stuff like very like pro Trump and all that type of stuff, and like kind of pro military. But what I actually want to talk about is something really fascinating that happened. Breaking, shots fired at the White House press correspondence dinner. This video right here, which I have already pulled up and is gonna play in a little bit. This went up minutes before. Like look at this. Like some people are like literally confused about like how this came out so fast. Like literally this happened bro, this happened 7 seconds ago. You know, it's like, and like some people like found out about this piece of news because of this. You know, it's like, why? Because they were able to generate this piece of art that fast.
続報ホワイトハウス記者協会夕食会で混乱が発生し騒動を受けてシークリットサービスがトランプ氏を会場から退場させました続報をお伝えします
You know, it's like you can kind of get it. You know, it's super simple. It's not really too dynamic of a shot. It's something that could easily be generated. Maybe in like each shot is like 2 or 3 like generations each, and then thrown up. But what about something a lot more complicated than that? how about we talk about this video that came out 4 months ago, which is called Iran's Revolution, Psyop Anime, World War III. This video basically took off when it first came out. I saw like several people reacting to it. Like, this is literally like talking about like news and like stuff coming from like around the world. This is like each one of these shots are probably like 8 or 9 generations to get the look right. And then like all of this is layered on top of each other into like a whole cohesive scene. And this looks oddly beautiful. And again, this is about like news and like what is going on in world events. And they have presented this in such a way that it gets the idea and all of this. And at the same time, it's in this sort of like late 80s, early 90s, like retro future, I believe is the correct Japanese term for like these like mecha anime sort of like looks. And this is talking about like real world things that were happening at around the time and like showcasing it in a way that like people can understand. And it's so fascinating that they were able to like get something out like this. And it started resonating with people. And people were like, you can talk about the news this way. Again, like, as I said, literally, like, people found out news based off of, like, stuff that, Psyop uploaded. And they are still doing it. Like, they upload, like, several times a week at some points. And it's like, it's just really fascinating to kind of, like, think about all that stuff. Like, again, very, like, right-wing sort of, like, perspective, but that's because the counterculture right now is in the right-leaning perspective's court. Like, it's usually, like, in the, like, I wanna say in the, like, populist movings to the libertarian right, but it's mostly sitting, like, just under, like, it's sitting in that sort of, like, section that you would normally find for, like, people that are, like, you know, like, counterculture. If you want to hear me talk more about, like, political viewpoints and all that kind of stuff, I have a video up on this channel talking about how hard it is for me to explain to people my political viewpoints. But let's talk about something rather interesting, because when I think about, like, you know, like not anime, when I think about, like, another aspect of this, it's oddly enough, like, the community. You know, it's like, the reason why, like, street tagging became so well, like, liked is that people were having this sort of competition between people about, like, who can make, like, a cooler mural and all that kind of stuff. And in a way, like, you get to this point where, like, you eventually find community. It's why AI people, like, will always stand behind people, and whenever, like, there's like an argument about, like, AI going around, you will eventually find, like, 4 or 5 faces that will oftentimes always pop up. And I'm not disparaging them for talking about it like that, but I will say that it is really fascinating that they keep coming up. But the community aspect of making art is important to people that make art. So when you kind of attack art, it's usually the people who are the most fervently in the midst of doing that will talk about it. So as I was kind of recording, I remembered that I forgot to pull this up. So this is a video by Jacob Geller, you know, like 3 million views, who was afraid of modern art 6 years ago. So this was made, like, at the height of the pandemic, like, talking about, like, all this kind of stuff, and basically made his channel blow up. But I want you to think about the way he's talking about this And now think about the way people are kind of talking about AI.
A less fun fact is that for every attack on his work because people didn't like red, many more have been specifically done by white supremacists. Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue 4 was attacked by a man who said it was a perversion of the German flag. Another Newman, a sculpture called Broken Obelisk, was spray painted with swastikas in 1979, and last year, that same sculpture had white paint poured into its reflecting pool. Scattered around the vandalism were brochures with the 4chan pioneered supremacist campaign, "It's okay to be white." Whether they know it or not, the fact that white supremacists hate Newman's art fits right in with the message he always said he wanted to convey. In 1990, he said of his art, "One of its implications is its assertion of freedom. If it were read properly, it would mean the end of all state capitalism and totalitarianism." Challenging our preconceived notions of art means challenging our preconceived notions of institutions, of society. This kind of art doesn't fit into the cultural narrative, and because of that, it becomes a target. And ultimately, the crime that these artists commit is the right's biggest fear. They are upsetting the hierarchy. They are taking themes, experiences, and emotions that don't fit into our nation's narrative, and they are expressing them in a way that is impossible to ignore.
Now imagine that made today, but it is someone on the right talking about someone on the left, disparaging AI art, because it goes against their perceived narrative about what art is. And I've always thought back to this video whenever I heard someone talking about like AI art. And again, like this is talking about like the vandalism of art in video games in real life because of fascist beliefs. And personally, I think that like fascism is like everyone's enemy. But like when we kind of talk about like overall, when we're talking about art critique, this is the exact argument in the opposite direction. It is now flipped in favor of people on the right who talk about AI. And again, like every once in a while, I'll see like a post online of like someone on Blue Sky using AI generated art to bash someone on the right, and inevitably the image of Batman shows up. One second. Yeah. So when we talk about like stuff, this panel always comes up. Dark Knight Returns. This is the weapon of the enemy. We do not need it. We will not use it. And people on the left will oftentimes post this under people who are also on the left using AI art to make fun of people using AI art. And it's the funniest thing in the universe because it starts becoming this like cyclical nature. So, I got 14 years ago. Thank you, post from 14 years ago, for letting me use this. By the way, this comic was made in response to 9/11 as well. Just wanted to make that well known. But let's talk about another aspect of culture, because again, it's like when we were talking about like how culture sort of blends and all this kind of stuff, art becomes this communal thing. And one of the things that I started noticing as I watched through like Skybrowse's videos, like I have like a comment on like almost all of his videos, like talking about how it's like this is such an like an interesting piece of art, like overall, and like I've been like an enjoyer of that sort of like that sort of thing. But like let's kind of talk about something that I really enjoyed as like a final note to this video that has proceeded to about like an hour, you know? So this is a video by a guy named Silas Frostrunner, and he is someone that I kind of come across talking about Skybrowse's videos like every once in a while. Like, let me just rewind just a little bit. So if you don't know, Silas is also an AI artist. He generates like a lot of his like thumbnails and all that kind of stuff. Definitely someone that's on the right. with all that kind of stuff. And this happened during one of Skybrowse's videos. This particular video was actually a pretty neat one because it's mostly him kind of making fun of himself and critique about himself when it comes to the type of stuff. So it's a very introspective video from Skybrowse. But so this happens.
AI Trump had a stroke.
So
what
he's
are you doing, little man? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about this for all the viewers. Little man is going full baby chaos on me, and now he's got no, hold on. We might have to technical difficulty.
Sorry,
This is sorry, like paternal stuff like really gets me. You could kind of anyone that kind of knows that like paternal themes is like the one thing I like cling on to a lot. So like his son sort of like grabbing at like the microphone and all that type of stuff.
Okie dokie. You gonna behave yourself now, little man? No, don't kick. Don't kick. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now he's having fun because he's like able to kick things on my desk. My word. Do you want the Rubik's Cube? That was scary. Okay, so is this a brand name of a watch or something? I don't know.
So like just kind of funny little moment. Only for in the very next video for Skybrowse to do called that is mostly about foxes, which, you know, Silas is a fox. He's watching the video, and in the middle of it, this happens.
Oh, dude. Oh, that's so cute. Dude, how do you get my mic right? That's crazy. Oh, little man hungry running the street. Oh man.
And it's this kind of cute moment that I kind of think about a lot. You know, it's like when we talk about like, again, art, we talk about like a community experience. And it's why people get upset when you attack their brand of art. Because there is something so personal about the way someone expresses themselves. It's why, like, when you rip down, you know, like, protest images, people will oftentimes get really upset about it. Because people are trying to find avenues and expressing themselves in many different ways. And it's when I kind of realized what AI is becoming to people that make AI art that it all started to click together. And again, like, I will be like the first person like to say that we need some sort of way to like regulate the way that AI is, because, you know, you can't just have that running around to, you know, like take like well-known people and just make them say things that they haven't said and cause like legal issues. I could have pulled that video up and all that kind of stuff, but I kind of didn't want to. But at the same time, like, if you stifle art progress, you don't get neat things. You know, if you prevented people from taking photographs and using that as an artistic movement, you wouldn't get the collage of 9/11. If that would not be considered art if the people who said that taking photographs of scenery is not art. It's like, you would not get modern art itself if you didn't have people that were fighting back against, like, realism, where people would just, like, draw things in front of them. It's like, I want to express myself by basically putting two vertical lines on this piece of canvas and expressing myself that way. Like, you would not have these sort of things if, you would just not have these sort of things if art went in different ways. Anyway, I've been talking for about like an hour, so I will see all of y'all next time. Goodbye, everybody.